everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my sewing room. So today's video kind of has two parts to it because the first part inspired the second part. And the first part is that I just went to the most amazing estate sale and came back with some absolute treasures, like things that I am still flabbergasted that I was able to find for the price that I did. And I really, really wanted to share all of those items with you all because I think that you will also really, really enjoy all of them because they're historical fashion related. Yay! What an exciting estate sale. So I want to show those items to you, but then also there are a couple of the items from this estate sale that I am hoping to be able to incorporate into my day-to-day history-bounding wardrobe. Unfortunately, in their current state, they don't actually fit me, so I need to upsize them just a little bit so that they can fit me and I can wear them. Don't worry, those particular items are not antiques. They are at best vintage, and by giving them just a little bit of alterations, I will be giving them new life. I don't think they date any earlier than like the 1980s, if that. So we're not talking about old pieces here. Don't worry, I would never go in and alter and or wear the old antique pieces. So just a little disclaimer there. So to start off with, let me tell you about how I found this incredible estate sale. This was an estate sale in the next town over for me, but it actually popped up in my email because they were doing an online sale and then you could just go over there and pick up the items. Now I actually was most interested in the sale because in their online listings, they had a calash, which if you are not familiar is an 18th century sort of hooded bonnet type thing that often has reed or some other stiffening in it so that it would be away from your hair but still protect you from whatever the weather was. And I was just like, oh my god, somebody in this area is selling a calash. Like, what? I mean, you can't find that. That's like 300 years old. What the heck? So that was what I was most interested in. I saw that in the sort of preview of this estate sale listing, and naturally when the estate sale went live and I clicked in 20 minutes after it went live, that had already sold for way over my budget anyway, so that's all right. But they had still available a listing that contained 2 antique carriage parasols. Yes, like the kind with the folding handles and everything. And I've always wanted a carriage parasol, and I got these 2 carriage parasols for $30 total. Yeah, like what? I am so absolutely thrilled to have these. So let me show them to you. Okay, so this is the first one, and I will show you this in more detail also, but this is the first one. This one is not in usable condition, as in the canopy of the parasol does have shattering going on here. However, because of that, I feel comfortable still opening it for you. I hope to at some point be able to recover this parasol. So the way that this works is this. It has a little join right here, and that opens up, and there's a little device, metal tube device, that comes down and covers over that join right there. And that creates the stiff handle. And then you open the top of the parasol like so. And because it's a carriage parasol, you can see all of the tears in that canopy, which is why it's not usable in that way. But because it's a carriage parasol, it doesn't just go up and stay. I mean, it could if you wanted it to, but you could also make it go up a little bit further and bend it so that you could have, you know, maybe you're talking with your friend in your carriage and she said something very impolite and you just don't want to hear it anymore. Well, so what? I don't want to hear it. But really it was so that you could get whatever that little bit of sun was out of your face, no matter what angle it's at, and you could sit in your carriage without having to worry about banging your friend in the head with your parasol. So that's why it's so tiny, and that's why you can angle it to whatever direction you need to. This one doesn't really like to stay in the direction. It kind of falls directly, I guess, perpendicular to the handle or parallel to the handle. And so it's, you know, maybe it needs a little tightening or something like that. I have to investigate further. But still, the handle of the parasol is in wonderful condition. It's quite sturdy. It just needs recovering here at the top. All of the ribs seem to be intact as well. So very, very excited about that. Let's take a look in closer detail now. And then of course, if it wasn't enough of a find to find that not great condition, but still working carriage parasol for $30, this listing actually contained an intact one as well. So this one is usable in its current state, which is just amazing. I don't know if I will get up the courage to actually use it, also because, you know, I don't have a carriage to ride in. And when you don't have a carriage to ride in, a carriage parasol becomes a little bit small and not quite as functional. But this is the other one right here. And so again, this folds out like so. And the little tube slips over the join. Like so. This one isn't brassy, it blends in with the stem. And then you open it and it's pink inside. And I can click it up into position. There we go. So I can either have it be nice and straight like this with the little pink interior and the little ivory exterior with its little ruffles. So cute. Or I can also make it go further and do the tilt, and this one you'll notice just kind of stays wherever you want to tilt it. You could do various angles of tilt. It won't wind up falling all the way straight down like the other. You could still tilt it all of that way down like so, but you could also tilt it in between. And it's just this little mechanism right here that helps for the tilting. So it's just like a little hinge right in there. But oh God, look at that. I mean, it's got some stains on the exterior, but otherwise it's in beautiful condition. I have a feeling, though I don't want to swear to this because I really don't know parasol history, but I have a feeling that this was recovered at some point. It doesn't quite feel like silk to me, and it might be just a type, you know, non-taffeta type silk that I'm just not as familiar with the feel of, but to me it doesn't quite feel like silk. So my guess is that this was previously recovered at some point and made into this beautiful parasol, but they did a fantastic job. It's just gorgeous, and it is so tiny. Like, oh my God, it's so small. But I just love it, and I can't believe that I now have two antique carriage parasols in my collection, let alone one that is actually totally functional, for $30. Now let's take a closer look at this parasol. So when I went to go pick up those two parasols from this estate sale location, it turned out that they actually had a lot of other items that they hadn't taken the time to list online, but were available for sale in the estate sale itself. They had about 1.5 rooms that were filled with various stuff, most of which was fashion related. Yay! So I kind of spent more money, but not too much. I only spent $40 additional on this entire estate sale, and I consider that a huge win because of everything that I got. So let's take a look at what all those were. So first off, I got two antique collars. I believe that both of these date to the 19-teens, but it's hard to say. They just look kind of 19-teen style. This is one of them. You can see all of that gorgeous soutache on there, and it's just on this nice net background. Just so, so pretty. And it's really quite large. So I can put it on here and show you. That is what it looks like on. And it's just beautiful. I don't know yet how or even if I will incorporate this into any of my costuming, but it was just in such good condition with all of this really gorgeous soutache that I couldn't leave it behind, especially because I think it wound up being $3. I also got another collar. Again, I think this dates to the 19-teens, but I can't be sure. And this one is just so light and ethereal and such an interesting shape. Look at the shape on that collar. And if you have other ideas of when collars like this might date to, please do leave me a comment down below. But it's just got this little lace detail along the neckline, and then all of this little bit of embroidery all along the exterior and in through the middle. And then again, just to see what this one looks like. This one I have to be careful of because it is lighter than my hair. But it's kind of got this shape going on. I know I've got white on white here, but this is more or less the shape with the little tabs that stick out. There we go. So that is the other color, again, $3. I got this gorgeous buckle and belt. Honestly, I don't really plan to use the belt. It is leather and it is large enough that I can actually tie it, but it makes a very, very tiny bow on me, and I think it is designed for someone with probably a waist of about this size, whereas on me I think it hits about here. But the buckle itself is just beautiful. I think it's like a paste style buckle, but I really don't know accessories very well, so I don't know if it is actually paste or if it's just vintage rhinestones, but it's just very pretty. Looks like that, and so you can see the little bit of tie that I have left. It's not quite enough to tie it, but I think that this buckle would look so excellent on pretty much any historical costume, and so I do plan to use this one probably quite a lot. I have large hands and it can be quite difficult for me to fit into vintage gloves, so I do have a bad habit of, like, when I find vintage gloves that fit that are a reasonable price, I buy them all. I now have a lot of vintage gloves and I probably don't need these additional ones, but they were really nice and I got 2 pairs of vintage gloves. These are this cute short one. You can see that scallop detail right there at the wrist, and they fit quite nicely. I have already washed these gloves because gross. But these are these cute little short ones, and I just love the embroidered detail. These are the other gloves, and I love the cutout embroidered detail on here. And it's even harder to find gloves that are longer because then they have to fit my arm as well. So I was really thrilled to find these, especially because with this sort of a buff color of these gloves, I feel like they almost give off a little bit of like a leather vibe, and with the cutouts and everything. And I have yet to be able to find leather gloves that will fit me. And so to have these kind of buff colored ones, I feel like they can kind of help to serve that purpose. And I look forward to wearing these. Okay, now that I've talked about all of those smaller accessories, let's move on to 3 of the larger pieces that I found at this estate sale. So this lovely lady is a bodice that I got at the estate sale. Isn't she just gorgeous? I believe she is from either the early 19-teens or the late 19-aughts, and I will do a further examining video on her at some point down the road as one of my monthly series of examining antique garments, so I'm not going to go in depth on her just yet, but I just love all of the 16 little buttons that she has in the front here, and the cut of the back I think is just gorgeous. And the other thing that I love about this is that this was definitely designed to be worn tucked into a skirt, and they just never finished the bottom of it. Like, it's got the little hooks where a skirt once hooked in on the back, and the bottom is literally just cut raw. And I definitely have a lot of things that I've made that I've tucked into skirts or designed to be tucked into skirts where it's just surging on the bottom. So like, I so sympathize with the maker of this bodice. I think we are kin. So anyway, I will show you this more in detail in some future video. And that brings me to the final two pieces that I got from this estate sale, which are also two of the pieces that I will be altering in the second part of this video. The first one here is an apron, and to be honest, I don't think that this is a vintage piece at all. I think this is purely modern, purely costume, and purely adorable, particularly with my new gingham dress here. I just think it looks really, really fantastic. The issue with this is, though, that it is a one-size apron, and it's the kind that's designed to be worn with straps and everything that connect in the back with buttons, and there's button holes, and then it ties and all that. And where the button part hits the strap that you tie here in the back is not remotely close to where the buttonholes are supposed to be, or where the buttonholes are. So it needs alteration to be able to fit me, because this is where the buttonhole is, and this is where it hits the strap, and that's not even where the buttons are on the strap, that's below that. I am both too tall and too large for this apron, so it needs major alterations. That said, what I'm trying to decide on is if this front section of the apron here, the bib of the apron, also just looks kind of a little awkwardly small on me, because if it does, my thought is that I might just take off the bib portion entirely and just have it as like a cocktail style hostess apron just on the skirt, because then I can wear it with things like this pinafore dress and it won't actually cover up the dress itself. It will wind up looking a little bit more like that, which I think is super, super cute. The thing that drew me to this apron in the first place are these adorable flowers that they have on here, and also this really lovely tucked and lace trim here down at the bottom, the hem of the apron. It's also much more full than any apron that I already own, other than the one that I made, my Historybounding apron that I made last Christmas, which I will link up above if you are interested in actually making a Victorian apron from scratch as opposed to finding one. And I just really think it is so, so cute. So I'm probably going to put out a question on Instagram, maybe ask my mom, you know, that sort of thing, to decide if I should do this as just the skirt apron or if I should do this as the bibbed apron, because both ways are cute. But this is one of the pieces that I will be altering this week. The last find from the estate sale and the second piece that I will be altering, there will be 3 pieces total that I'll be altering this week, is this gorgeous velvet skirt. It's not going to film at all because it's black velvet, and of course this is totally the wrong season for black velvet, but I just could not pass this up. I think I got this for $10, $7, something like that. It was just too good to pass up. But it is too small in the waist. Not by a ton, like I can get it on, but it just doesn't zip up. So, I mean, you can kind of see, yeah, how it doesn't fit. However, this top section of this skirt is cut on a bias, basically on an angle. So as it goes down the skirt, it gets wider, just like most skirts. And so my thought was, since this skirt is plenty long, honestly, it'd be a little bit too long for the current length of the skirt to the waistband, my thought was, well, I'll just go to where it does fit my waist, which is right where this pin is, mid-zipper, and just cut off the top, reset the waistband, reset the zipper, and have a gorgeous new skirt that I can wear for history bounding or whatever in my daily wardrobe. This skirt is just so nice. I mean, besides the velvet being like super soft, I don't know what kind of velvet it is, but it's really nice velvet. But also it's lined with silk, and the whole body is lined with silk, and particularly the bottom is lined with this shocking green silk taffeta. So it's so rustly and just gorgeous. And I mean, what a kick when you walk and that just shows up as the green taffeta. I love it. So I'm very, very excited to have this in my wardrobe, even if it's something that probably won't get much wear until fall when, you know, velvet skirts are more of a thing. So that's the second piece I will be altering. I will be cutting off the top of the skirt, resetting the waistband, and resetting the zipper to make it fit myself. The third piece I will be altering, I have actually mentioned pretty recently on my channel because I talked about this blouse in my recent history bounding video, which if you have not seen that, I will link that up above. And that is the ubiquitous Gap blouse that was going all over, that everyone bought last year. And I did manage to snag one as well, though I believe it took a lot of waiting because they were out of most sizes for most of the time. And I finally managed to snag an extra large, and it fits fine through the body of the blouse, the neck, etc. But the sleeves, as you can see, are way too short. And so because the sleeves were hitting me here instead of here, they don't remotely fit around my arm because they're made to fit around a wrist. So I have been hanging this up in my alterations pile now for over a year, I think, at this point. And it's really high time that I actually do something about it so that I can actually wear this cute Victorian style blouse. So I have already started kind of this alteration in that I took the cuffs off. And unfortunately, I don't think there's any way that I'm actually going to be able to use these cuffs in the alteration of this blouse. They're so, so cute, but there's just no way that I can extend them. So I'll probably save them to see if I can use them on some future blouse where I do make something that will hit me at the wrist. But for now, unfortunately, that's not going to be this. But it's okay that this doesn't hit me at the wrist either, honestly, because frankly, I prefer 3/4 sleeve length, especially for like a nice lightweight blouse like this. I think it'll be really nice for late spring, early summer. And so I'm just going to put on new cuffs on the bottom of the sleeve here. So that brings me to the second part of this video now, as we start getting into these alterations. You have heard me talk about what all I'm going to do, but now we actually have to do it. So this one should be very, very easy. I'm just going to look in my stash of white cotton and see what cotton I have that might be kind of the most similar to this lightweight cotton. This is like kind of a shirting, but I'll bet that it would be pretty similar to sheets or even to like muslin. I think Kona cotton might be a little heavy, but I'll have to see what I have here because I just need 2 strips for the band. It's just going to be a small band that I'll probably decorate with a little bit of lace just to decorate it up. And it's not going to button because it's a 3/4 sleeve. I don't need it to button, you know, narrowly at the wrist. So it's just going to be a small band. I'm probably going to cut it at about 3 inches wide because that will give me 1 inch band on either side and then 1/2 inch seam allowance. And I will just run gathering stitches on this part on the machine and gather that up and fit it to the band. So I'll measure about this part of my arm to get the length of the band, making sure to add 1/2 inch seam allowance on each side, and then show you how I put that together. So what I've done so far is that I've run gathering stitches right here along the edge of the sleeve, and then I've also cut out a piece that is 3 inches wide by 13 inches across, and this 3 inch wide piece will wind up giving me 1 inch in the end after seam allowance and fold over and everything, and this 13 inch wide is 12 inches, which is a little bit higher up my arm for the arm measurement, but I figured I don't care if it hangs a little bit looser. I would rather have it at this this slightly longer measurement, probably giving me about half an inch or so of leeway. Oh, and then the other thing that I did here too was I remembered that this actually had a little opening right here in the sleeve, and that had a little bit of like facing basically put over it because that was the opening for where the button was on the sleeve. So I removed that facing because I didn't want that bulk in there, and I just serged that off and ran a row of stitching until it kind of tapered off the side right up here below this first pin tuck. So that should really fairly well disappear from the outside. I haven't pressed it yet or anything, but it'll just kind of look like that, and then it'll just kind of disappear. So that should be fine. It should probably blend in also, especially once I've pulled up the gathering stitches. You can see those two lines of gathering stitches on here. I haven't pulled them up yet, but I'm going to pull them up to fit the 12-inch section. In other words, everything except the seam allowance on here. Actually, I think I'm going to do that after I go ahead and seam this off. So I'm just going to do the seam right there and then gather the sleeve up to fit this, pin this together, right sides together, and then I can go ahead and turn this and turn it inside and stitch that down. I'll probably do all of that by machine, honestly. Now that the cuff part is attached, I'm going to press up this raw edge here by ½ inch. Let's be honest, I probably should have done that before attaching it, but oh well, it's on now, and I'm just going to use my sleeve board to do it. And so I'm going to press that up and then fold the whole thing over so that it will wind up being about like that wide. And then I'm just going to stitch in the ditch right here from this side. I'm going to pin it in place and stitch it in the ditch, and that'll be it. That'll be done. So the actual sleeve alteration is now done. This is what it looks like on the outside, and this is what it looks like on the inside. So the stitches are super nice and tiny even on the inside, and on the outside they're right in this ditch right here. But I just feel like it's a little bit plain for this blouse, so I want to add some lace. So this lace was in my stash. It's just kind of like cotton crochet lace, and I've played around with kind of how I might want it, you know, whether that's on top or maybe hanging down from here, or what I've decided I really like best is to put it right on the inside like that. And honestly, that's going to look way better hand sewn than machine sewn, so I'm just going to hand whip that in. Hopefully it won't take very long, but that'll give me a nice little lace trim, and I will show you what that looks like when it is done. And this is the finished sleeve. So it's got all of the little lace right here. It looks really, really cute. Though, when I went to go put on this blouse today, which I have not put on since last year because it's been hanging in the naughty mending pile, I realized that this collar is actually kind of uncomfortably tight too. So to wear it today, I did a stopgap measure of doing a little safety pin right here around the button. But I think what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take the button off and put it on like a little tab of elastic so that it can get just about sort of like 3/4 inch extra to make this comfortable where it's sitting now. So I guess the blouse isn't done. I have one more fix to do, and I will do that shortly. So let's talk about how I'm doing this little collar extension here. So this is the safety pin that I was wearing it with earlier, and this makes it move 1 inch over. So what I'm going to do is take this really narrow elastic, I think this is 1/4 inch elastic, and I'm basically going to make this little sort of loop like this, and this is going to be sewn down. It's going to be about 2 inches of elastic, and it's going to be sewn down on this end over here to right here, except I'm going to sew it underneath the edge of the collar, and then where it folds over here, it's going to have a button. So this will give me a little bit of flexibility from the stretch, and also it will just give me that little extension piece right here. And since I pretty much always wear my hair down, no one's going to see that anyway. So the button will wind up being right here instead of right here. And this is what it looks like when it is all done. So the button is attached to the end of the elastic right here, and then the elastic is sewn onto the collar right there. I am going to start working on the apron. Now, I guess I've kind of decided to take the easy route on this because I wore it just a little bit, you know, like this, just to see what it would look like. And I was wearing it with the purple dress I had on yesterday. And honestly, like having the pinner part up here hides the dress, and also it just looks a little small on me. Like, I feel like I would want this pinner part to be, I don't know, maybe an inch wide on either side. And so I think that the better answer for this is just to make this a waist apron, more like a cocktail style apron, because it's so nice and full that I can wear it with stuff like my purple dress and just wear it for like daily outside the house, and it would look so adorable with that outfit. But having this part just blocks the whole dress. So we're just gonna make it a waist apron. That said, I do really like the floral applique on here, and so I don't wanna just get rid of that and throw it away. I'm going to utilize that in the apron. I think I'm gonna put it on the pocket because I think that would be pretty cute. Otherwise, maybe I will put it on the waist along with this one. But the first thing to do is going to be unpicking this front pinafore part of the apron, and that's really about it for now, and then just figuring out where that applique is going to go. I have removed the bib of the apron, so now all I have to do is sew this little bit here closed. I'm just going to do a top stitched line of stitching right there because the rest of this has top stitching as well, so it'll be nice and easy. And then the other thing that I was trying to figure out is what to do with the other applique flowers that were on the bib, and I was talking to my mom about it because she is visiting right now. She said I should just add them to this one here, so I'm going to pick them off of the bib part of the apron and then just sew them on here. Naturally, they are all appliqued separately with all of the centers and everything separate as well, so some of that's going to have to be done by hand. These flowers are all sewn down in a circle. You can see it in the back here. They're in a circle like with the petals, and then I think the centers are kind of, they're either done by hand or they're just kind of loosely done on machine. So I'm going to add to those after I sew that part shut. All of the flowers are now in place, the ones from the upper bib, and I put them with the ones that were already on here. I did remove the bow and then put it in a different place, but I just kind of put them all and arranged them all like that, and then I sewed in the same way that they did, little circles around and across the centers. And I also sewed shut the buttonholes that were on the waistband, so both of those are now done, which means the apron is finished. And I'll show you what all of this looks like all together once I finish the skirt, but for now it is on to the skirt. So the first thing that I'm going to do for the skirt is I'm going to just remove the existing waistband because I am hoping to just reuse the majority of the waistband, or really all of the waistband, and just add to it. And the part that I'm going to add to it will be the part that I cut down from the rest of the skirt here, since I'm cutting it down a few inches. I think I showed you earlier where I'll be cutting it down to, which is where this pin is here on the back. So that is about 4 or so inches that I'll be cutting down, but that way I can just put the new waistband here and then just kind of expand the waistband a little bit to where I need it to fit. So I've had an interesting surprise development with the skirt project, which is that I unpicked the waistband from the waist and found out that apparently the skirt was actually slightly gathered into the waistband, so slightly that I really didn't notice it. It was pretty much like eased into the waistband, because actually without the waistband, it just barely fits. That said, it's like super slim to my hips, and so I just think it wouldn't be that comfortable wearing it, like having it that slim. So I think I am still going to go ahead and cut it down, make the skirt a little shorter, gather this back into an extended waistband, and it will mean resetting this zipper too. So I will have to open up the seam a little bit further right here, which, like, the seam on this velvet, and I didn't even realize the waistband actually already has a seam extension in it as well, but the seams are just like so not even, you can barely feel them, let alone see them. But I should hopefully be able to just like open this up and set the zipper down a little bit deeper. I'm not really sure because I don't really set zippers like this. I set invisible zippers or separating zippers always. I have no experience with like slightly lapped zippers, which is what this is, so this might be a bad idea. We shall find out. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and cut it down the 4 inches, which is what I had before, and undo the zipper and move everything down, gather this back up, and use some of this fabric into the new waistband. So hopefully this works. I've taken off the zipper, and the next thing that I did was I measured down 3.5 inches from this seam line right here. I decided to take a little bit less than 4 inches off. I think this is going to wind up being like 3 inches shorter, but I marked down 3.5 inches from here to here, drew a chalk line around here, and then I went and I just ran my gathering stitches as basting stitches. So I'm using my gathering stitches as basting stitches right here on this line. And I did it in white so that I wouldn't lose them because they're going to be in the waistband anyway, so who really cares? Because it was actually a little bit hard sometimes to spot this. It shows up a lot more on the camera than it does in real life because it sinks into the velvet. So I've done this here, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just serge off the top, use my serger as a cutter basically is my plan, and just make a serged edge about a 1/2 inch or less above this, probably a 1/4 inch above this so that these don't show. And that way then I can gather this up just slightly, use some of the velvet here as an extender for the waistband. I haven't seen yet how much I need, but I will need some, probably 4 inches, something like that, that I will take from here and use as part of the waistband. And I mean, that's pretty much it. Then I just gather this up and attach it to the waistband. The reason that I did do basting it all here, by the way, is because there is actually a China silk lining layer. Now, this silk layer is actually more full than the velvet layer, so it is gathered even into the waist up here. So I really didn't care what it was doing down here. I just kind of scrunched it up, whatever. I tried to match up the seam lines, so the seam lines would be the same on both sides, but beyond that, I really didn't care. So that is where I'm at. I am going to serge that all off and do the waistband extension. So I realized that before I could serge off the top of this skirt or anything like that, I actually had to put the zipper in because of how it's finished with like the lining and everything right here. So yeah, I couldn't serge it, so I just cut it. But apparently where I did these basting lines did not meet, because when I cut it, this is what happened. So that's great. So I set the zipper to the lower side, but now I have to figure out just how long this other part's gonna be, I guess, and like actually make sure it's even all the way around the skirt. Oh, hi, Dora. Dora's saying hi. Dora, say hi. Oh, thank you for saying hi. Okay, so back to zippers. So I did set the zipper in though. It's not pretty. I haven't tried to press it. I don't know that I can press it because it's velvet, but it doesn't look pretty even on... Really, Dora? Dora, I'm filming that zipper and you're standing on it. Dora. Let's see if we can steal those away from Dora. Hi. I know. You want some time in front of the camera because everyone's actually here to watch you and not zippers. I get it. I get it. Can we talk about zippers now? Anyway, back to the zipper. It is sewn in, but it is not pretty, Dora, seriously. It's not very pretty right here, but oh my god, Dora. Dora. Anyway, the lining is pinned in on the inside, so I'm going to sew that down by hand because that's how it was before, but I will have to get my cat off of this and then even off the top part here just to make sure it's even all the way around. Then I can really just pull up the gathering stitches and attach it to the waistband. I did already put the extension on the waistband. I did a section that was 7 inches by 3.75, so it would add an extra 6 inches to the waistband. So that will now fit, and I just cut that out of the scraps and everything that I had cut off the top. So, and it seemed even all the way around when I cut it off, so I don't know what's going on. But anyway, Dora and I are going to get back to work after some apparently needed cuddle time. I managed to wrangle this away from Dora. Checking the length was actually super easy. It was only off just right by the zipper, so that was very, very easy to fix. I just kind of tapered it off as I attached the waistband, and it is actually still in here. So like this one, it goes all the way up to here, but no big deal at all. and I attached the waistband all on. I just kind of pulled it up a little bit. You can see it's really not very gathered into the waistband. It's almost more like it's been eased, and that's only in the back. The front really doesn't have like any at all, and that's mostly because it didn't want to gather past some of the seams because, you know, this is thick. And speaking of thick, one of the things that they did in the original waistband attachment was that the inside of the waistband was stitched down by hand. Normally I would do that by machine, but honestly this is just so thick in here that that's going to be way more trouble than it's worth. It's going to be so much easier just to do this by hand. So I am going to whip stitch this whole bit down by hand, also whip stitch the lining down over by the zipper, and then I just have to move the bar, which is just floating where it was originally, move the bar to the end over here, and I think I'm going to put another return hook and bar on the little tab there, and that is it. That will be done. So once everything is all done, I think I might just kind of assemble it all into an outfit for you and show you what that looks like all together next. Overall, I'm very happy with the way that everything turned out. I'm super excited to be adding all of these pieces to my regular wardrobe, or at least especially the blouse and the skirt to my regular wardrobe. I don't know how often I'll actually wear the apron, but it's a cute, fun accessory for when I want to go just a little bit extra in my history bounding. So it will be fun to incorporate it at those times. Anyway, I do hope that you enjoyed this video, both the haul portion and the alterations portion. Something that I've been thinking about doing that has been suggested by some of you guys is to do a video where I do alterations and things that I, wasn't happy with for a costume when I finished it, that I actually go back and do those instead of just hanging them behind the camera like my tea gown still is from 2 months ago. So I might do that at some point. Please let me know in the comments if that is something that you'd be interested in seeing, just me like taking a week and trying to fix all of those things that I wasn't happy with when I finished those costumes. Anyway, I do hope that you enjoyed this video. If you liked this video, please go ahead and click the thumbs up icon. And if you'd like to see more videos like this from me, please go ahead and click subscribe and the little bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. I do post videos here on YouTube twice a week, with my sewing vlogs like this on Tuesdays and other costuming content out on Saturdays, but I post every day over on my Instagram, so please go follow me on Instagram. That's at Lady Rebecca Fashions. And if you'd like to help support all of the work that I do on this channel, I do have a link to my Patreon and my Ko-fi accounts down below. And I do want to give a special shout out to my Edwardian level patrons, Heidi and Sharon. Thank you all so much for joining me this week. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing! Okay, something you're not doing a pan of.